Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another early look at Total War Warhammer 2. As some of you already know, I was invited down to Santa Monica a little while ago where we got a ton of new information that I put together in a video you can check out by following the link in the description and probably pinned comment below. Apart from the developer interview that you saw at that great event, we got our hands on the Kroq-Gar quest battle that they've been teasing for a while now. Now, just so you know, this video is just me fighting the battle with post-commentary over top of it. For a more cinematic look, I have a second video coming, might already be up, and I'll link to it at the end of this video, down below in the description and pinned comment, and under the eye at the top right corner of the video as well. Just a reminder, this is early footage, the game is still in development, so there might be a few bugs here and there that will likely be fixed between now and release. This was my second attempt at the battle, and I'll upload the first if you'd like as well, just let me know, so we can see more content out there. Anyway, enough time wasted. Let's dive in, and as you can expect, I'm jumping in on hard mode. Alright, so that was just a little tease of what they get and what we get on the battlefield. You'll see we start with a smaller army here, so right away I pull them together and actually send them forward. Now, I'd like to mention really quickly, single right-click is actually a run order now, which is a pretty big deal actually. And the camera, you'll see as well, zooms out a little bit farther than it used to by default without any mods or text edits. Now, right from the get-go, I actually skipped the cutscene the second playthrough, so you can see the High Elf army is still coming together. So I try to use Kroq-Gar's Rod of the Storm to hit them as they're clumped up, but I completely flubbed the timing on that, still unfamiliar, so I completely miss it. Now, I am sending my Feral Beasts in to charge while my Saurus Spears there are forming up so that I can get a full engagement without getting surrounded. And you'll see the High Elves actually form up before I'm able to close the gap, so Stegadon being sent in against the Archers instead alongside Kroq-Gar because I want to shut down that range support, and the Feral Bastiladon on the right as well being sent in to shut down the Archers on the right. At this point, you'll see I set charges with the Saurus Spears, and these guys actually get stuck in with the Spearmen, so pretty rough. Now, the Spearmen actually don't have a shield wall formation either, like the lance formation we saw with the Bretonnian Cavalry, and that's just to avoid over-micromanagement, a point that I understand after speaking with the developers about it. Now, with that aside, you can see the Feral Stegadon there alongside Kroq-Gar doing quick work to the Archers, while the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers that we can't see yet are actually firing into my infantry with doing some decent amount of damage there. Now, the Stegadon dives in, the Bastiladon's about to dive in, and my solar engines do arrive on the field as I corner those Archers and completely wreck their day. Bolt Thrower's still trying to get some damage in. At this point, I decide I'm actually going to get some rear charges into the front lines here. The High Elf infantry, they all have martial prowess that gives them better charge resistance and melee defense unless their health is below 50%. So trying to get some rear charges here with one of the only cinematic shots I actually do in this because, again, it takes me more time when I'm actually doing cinematic shots properly, so this was really unsatisfying. But you get to see some High Elves fly around as the Stegadon comes charging through, and Kroq-Gar in the back following up with a charge of his own, but you can also see some High Elf Spearmen, and we've got some Sword Masters of Hoeth to the right of this Stegadon. We'll catch more of them in a bit here. But again, this is sort of the only cinematic shot in this video. If you want to see cinematic shots, I will link to that video separately. Eagle Claw Bolts kind of coming in as well, trying to cause some damage here. But yeah, so that rear charge does the trick. You can see they've taken a lot of damage there, and that front line is beginning to waver and shatter. So I've got some of those High Elf Spears falling back, and now I send my Feral Beasts back into those Archers, because again, I need to shut down that range support and make sure it's not able to do too much. But I've won the bridge already, and once you win the bridge here, which thankfully is not too much of a meat grinder, you'll see the rest of the High Elf contingent on the bridge actually shatters right away. So I send my Feral Beasts and Kroq-Gar up there to charge at first, but I will be pulling them back while these Solar Engines are now told to target the White Lions up there because those guys are armor-piercing, and I want none of that nonsense in my army. So I shut those guys down as early as possible, and meanwhile, again, pulling back Kroq-Gar and my Feral Beasts so that I can get my Saurus Warriors with their shields up here and again form up on the bridge because I want to have a nice contained aggression sort of all together here. At the same time, again, just making sure I'm focusing down on those white lines, checking my range, and the Sun Dragon, as you can hear, arrives. I also have my Temple Guard coming up, so again, still forming up on the bridge, getting my Cold One Spear Riders up to the left and right. Again, I want them clear, don't want them getting intercepted by my own units, obviously, and I want those guys to charge in. They are anti-large as well. Same time, using the army ability there, raising some Cold Ones, some Feral Cold Ones, using Kroq-Gar's ability to get them in on the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, shutting those guys down, doing a decent amount of damage pretty quickly. Solar Engines opening shots off on those white lines, and let's get a nice shot at that as well. There you have it. And pretty decent hit, does a decent amount of damage there. As you can see, took about a fifth of their health right off, while the cold ones are in there as well. And at the same time, I do have my skinks with their blowpipes coming up. I've got my, well, the rest of my infantry contingent forming up, and unfortunately those cold ones actually start to rampage, though I am able to get that order in to get them into that other unit of Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. Drop another Rod of the Storm into the white lines of Schrace. Don't know how to pronounce that, but just to get more damage in there, and you'll see we get a nice shot from the Solar Engine as well. The charge comes in from the cold ones, but unfortunately they're focused down on by the Sun Dragon's Fire Breath, doing a decent amount of damage, and we get a double whammy here with a bolt from two sources. Now, about to send the Solar Engine in against the Sun Dragon, and I've got Cold-Blooded going on Kroq-Gar as well. Again, that reduces speed as well as melee attack, so you want to be careful when you use it. You don't want to use it when you're stuck in an engagement. Now, I've got the Solar Engines again firing on the Sun Dragon, and I'm sending in my Cold One Spear Riders against the Silver Helms. Those guys are anti-infantry. My Cold One Spear Riders are anti-large. It's a natural fit. So you'll see I'm trying to get a full surround there as that other unit of Silver Helms does come charging down the field. Solar Engine still firing away. Kroq-Gar now I want to send up as well. He is anti-large, of course, and he's very efficient against enemy large units. So that Sun Dragon needs to get taken down, and Kroq-Gar is definitely a tool to do it. The Skinks, meanwhile, with their blowpipes, you'll see can fire while moving, so that's excellent. Getting some of that poison damage in there, helping the cavalry engagement there, and Kroq-Gar, meanwhile, actually turning him around to chase after some Silver Helms down here. Sun Dragon, you will have noticed, actually pulled his Fire Breath again, so that's a pretty short cooldown on the Fire Breath ability, and meanwhile those Silver Helms down there having a rough time as Kroq-Gar takes care of them with poison damage support. The infantry contingent now being moved up into the right while my Solar Engines continue to open fire on the Sun Dragon. Skinks with their blowpipes as well going to focus down on the Sun Dragon just to cause all that stat damage, and Kroq-Gar, of course, is going to have a great time against a dragon. So just take a look at how quickly the Sun Dragon falls apart. Barely lasts a handful of seconds after it decides to engage with some of my more fitting units, of course, and already routing. So pretty satisfied with that. The Cold One Spear Riders didn't even have to get involved, or barely got involved, and now sending them up against that range support again, while the rest of my infantry contingent is being sent up further up the center, up the steps of this battlefield. And you'll see the Sun Dragon does fall again relatively easily, while my Cold One Spear Riders now taking a lot of damage on that charge up, diving into the white lines. Of course, their charge resistance has been reduced now back to normal, and their melee defense is lower as well because their health is below 50%. So able to get that charge in nice and safe, and at this point, again, shutting down that range support, getting rid of the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers and the Archers, and trying to think where I can drop another Rod, but I decide to drop Kroq-Gar's Rod, but I decide to hold back for that rest of the High Elf army. At the same time, you'll see the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower is actually firing its sort of scatter shot ability instead, I believe, doing a little bit more damage to my infantry, it looks like, but Kroq-Gar goes in there and shuts that nonsense down right away. Get another Cold-Blooded in there, and meanwhile, you'll see those two Saurus Spears are actually all the way back there because they went into Rampage, and I lost control, and I lost track of those guys, so that's the effect Rampage has, unfortunately. Now, with some units, it only takes place when they're below 50% health, but with Feral Beasts, it can happen at any time if they're taking too much damage. Now, at this point, again, these guys are able to open fire, and these Silver Helms, I do a quick check to make sure they are anti-infantry, and seeing that, and then double-checking on my Cold One Spear Riders there, making sure they're anti-large. I send them in for a flanking maneuver. Solar Engines now pushing up as well, while you'll see back there my Feral Stegodon rampaging now, and is going to take care of some useless units. So unfortunately, you'll see how Rampage does actually start tearing my army apart, especially as the battle goes on. So a bit of a rough spot, but not to be deterred, not to be slowed down, I decide to push forward and focus again on the White Lions of Trace with my Solar Engines, while my Feral Bastiladon goes in against some Archers, Cold One Spear Riders, sorry, and Kroq-Gar still going around that flank, while the rest of the infantry contingent is going right up the middle. Should have waited for those Saurus Spears, but unfortunately, as we all know, I'm a little impatient. Now back here, you'll see that Stegodon still chasing after a handful of Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower crew members, so wasted there, but rampaging, nothing I can do. And now I send those Cold One Spear Riders against the Silver Helms, and I want Kroq-Gar into that clump against the Archers to try and shut down range support. Again, try to drop the Rod of the Storm. It's not as effective as I'd like it to be. They're not as clumped up as I thought they would be. Use that army ability again to bring some Cold Ones in there, some Feral Cold Ones against the Archers, shutting them down. And now you'll see I do have Kroq-Gar in the thick of things, fighting against these Silver Helms, and I bring those Cold One Spear Riders in to attack the Silver Helms as well as the Archers, trying to shut down that range support. Now the Mages have left the Fallen Gate. I actually need to target those guys to shut down the enemy army, so I'm going to focus down on them as soon as they're in range. Meanwhile, you'll see these Source Warriors with shields bracing themselves for some melee engagements, finally getting some action in there, while the Silver Helms are getting awfully close. The Pterodon Riders came in as well just a moment ago, and I've already ordered them to come into the fray, so you'll see they're on their way over. Again, just want to shut down that range support, not only because of the physical damage, but as you guys know, the morale damage is insane. Now, what else are we doing here? The Solar Engine still seeing where I can open shots off. I noticed that the mages are in range, so I focus down on the first mage there, the Lore of Light. I want to shut it down, and meanwhile, you'll see the Cold One Spear Riders are actually having a rough time, so not the best situation to be in. At the same time, you'll see I have the Feral Bastiladon in the center there, rampaging, thankfully in the midst of my opponent, and my Saurus Warriors being sent in to take care of those Elven Archers as well, while these guys with their blowpipes being sent in to take care of the cavalry. Now, at this point, the Pterodon Riders, are close enough to actually engage, but I want to use their Drop Rocks abilities and provide some support to Kroq-Gar, because he has taken a lot of damage. Between the White Lions in there, as well as the Silver Helms, he's taken a lot of hurt. And meanwhile, look at the amount of damage the Solar Engines actually do to the mages. So, first set of rocks dropped here. Doesn't do too much work, unfortunately, but that's okay, because the second set, I kind of plan my arrival a bit better and drop those rocks in a massive clump, and it does a lot of work. So great to see those rocks be efficient. You only get one shot though, and then the Fire Leech Bolas come into play. As you can see, they're being flung into the engagement and getting a lot of work done. And you'll see I start focusing in on the other mage, the Mage of High Magic, as that first mage has taken a lot of damage. It'll just take one more shot from the Solar Engine. There you have it, completely destroyed. And now Kroq-Gar is chasing after that mage on his piddly little chariot, wanting to shut it down. He is anti-large again, so dives in on it, does a lot of work basically right away. Again, just shutting down some of these range units that have decided to come back into the fray. A few more units now rampaging. I'm unable to keep a check on them, but the battle is almost over. That Mage of High Magic has almost been taken care of. Again, coming in from the side against those Illyrian Reavers just to shut them down once and for all. But no need. So, just zoom in, get a beautiful shot of Kroq-Gar, except unfortunately he's feeling a little camera shy today, keeps turning away, but there you have it, a victory against the High Elves. And it was quite an exhilarating battle, and of course, a heroic victory. There you have it, folks. The first look at this Kroq-Gar quest battle on hard. The battle is very fast-paced, and the Lizardmen are a great powerhouse of a faction, evidently. The High Elves didn't stand a chance, even though I kept losing some units to Rampage and a couple died. Rampage is really interesting because it does break apart your battle plan, and I love seeing that happen. It kind of keeps you on your toes, and the army ability to raise Cold Ones was great at shutting down range support, and those Solar Engines cause a ton of damage. Cold-Blooded is a neat and risky regenerative tool as well, with the reduction in speed and melee attack countering your health being replenished, so you sort of have to retreat or find the ideal time to use it, and that bridge portion of the battle was far from a meat grinder, which is great, though it could have been a bit more challenging. Just saying, the High Elves have superior range with a 170 range on their archers. Why were they not positioned a little bit further up for range support? My guess is balance. They want to make the fight fun as well as a bit challenging. Now, either way, the battle is great fun, and it comes in waves from both sides of the field, and of course, leading an army with dinosaurs has its plus points. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content, and check out some of the other videos I've uploaded from this event, including the cinematic version of this battle. Plenty of Warhammer 2 news to come our way as well, in very fast pace, since the release date is really right around the corner. Those months are going to go by just like that. Now, thank you very much for watching, as always, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield.